right. Well, welcome everybody to August's strategy meeting, California RCV Coalition strategy meeting. We do this once every other month, I think, maybe every quarter. I think we went to every month, every other month. So it's nice to see your face. This is a great chance for us to catch up with each other, for you to hear what's going on in the wider area of California. Depending upon where you are, you may be really active with something in ranked choice voting, or you may be here to hear what other people are doing. And that's what we're going to do tonight. And we have a special guest speaker as well that we'll introduce in just a little bit. Before we really get into things here, this is also a great meeting for people who are pretty new to ranked choice voting and who are, I call it RCV curious. But we are not going to go into what ranked choice voting exactly is and exactly how it works. We have 2 or 3 times every month, we have a session called Intro and Get Involved. And that's a great place to learn about what ranked choice voting is and what CalRCV is, what our wider strategy is, what we hope to accomplish over the next many years. And so I'm going to quickly put on the screen here. I'm going to share screen. If you want to know the fundamentals of ranked choice voting, that Intro and Get Involved session is a great thing to attend. And we've got lots of opportunities for you to get signed up for that. So we have on the screen right now, are you seeing it? Is everybody seeing it? Yes? Thumbs up?
Yes, we are.
Okay, perfect. I didn't see the green line around for some reason. I don't know why. So if you want to take this, QR code with your phone is a great way to sign up, or mobilize.us/CalRCV. And I think we'll have that also in the chat as well. We can put, you actually can see when the next one is and sign up for an upcoming session. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Marcela.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, Kate. Good evening, everyone. It's so great to see you all. I see so many familiar faces, but new faces. To those of you that don't know me, my name is Marcela Miranda-Caballero. I'm the executive director here at California Ranked Choice Voting. And I'm really excited that you guys are all here tonight because we have an amazing speaker with us. And you guys could be doing a million other things, but you're here learning about electoral reform and how we can advance ranked choice voting here in the state of California. So thank you again for being here, for your continued support, for your time, for your effort, for your financial contributions. We are so greatly appreciative of all the time and effort that you put into this. So for tonight, we have an amazing speaker. Her name is Susan Lerner. She is the executive director at Common Cause New York City, but she's also the executive director at Rank the Vote in New York City. And she and I met a few months ago, and I was just really inspired by her and all the work she did in New York City to pass ranked choice voting in 2019. She has just amazing background, and she's been working on electoral reform for several years at this point. And so I just want to ask you, Susan, a little bit more about your background. I want people to get to know how amazing you are. Thank you for being us. Before I get into anything else, thank you for being here tonight. And I thought maybe we could start off with you sharing a little bit more about your background and just some of the roles that you had throughout the years and how you got into electoral reform to begin with, and then how that ended up coming into ranked choice voting and specifically, running this coalition on a statewide level in New York City to pass ranked choice voting.
So it's great to be with you. I spent 25 years in California living in the Santa Monica Mountains, right up from UCLA. And some of you who've been around for a while working on reform issues may remember me from my time running the California Clean Money campaign. And also an organization called the Committee for Judicial Independence, working on federal court nominations to convince Dianne Feinstein not to confirm George W. Bush's more radical nominees to the federal courts. So There's actually, in my mind, a direct path from campaign finance to electoral reform. And after several years with the California Clean Money campaign, working on what then was possible under the lawful public financing of elections, my family moved back east, and I took up the helm at the New York chapter of Common Cause and was working on campaign finance there and working very closely with the Campaign Finance Board in New York City, really getting to see firsthand how an effective matching fund system, as opposed to a full public financing system, could work. And really seeing the way in which there was an interlocking impact from the public matching fund system and term limits. So that what we see in New York City were increasingly large, which is fantastic, numbers of candidates running for open seats in the city council. And New York City and New York is very different from California and from Los Angeles or San Francisco, because New York has a strong executive system, a strong governor, and also very strong mayor, and a large city council. We have 51 people in the New York City Council, as opposed to what is it, 16 in LA, and the council is not nearly as powerful in New York City as it is in Los Angeles. But that means that we have really a significant number of elections. And what I saw was the interaction between the public matching fund system, which allowed community-based candidates to run, and term limits, which created open seats on a regular basis, resulted in really significant fields of candidates. In fact, for some offices, over a dozen people would be running. And so really thinking about what does that mean to the voters? How do you make sense of that large a number of choices on your ballot? Became increasingly interested in ranked choice voting as a way for voters to really deal with the overabundance, the wonderful abundance of candidates that we had on the local level. And New York City has had a regular set of charter revision commissions. And the charter revision commissions tend to look at electoral reforms on a regular basis. The first time the Charter Revision Commission really started to talk about ranked choice voting was in 2010. And I wasn't that familiar with ranked choice voting. But folks from Fair Vote and other national groups started visiting New York, following up on the charter revision discussions. I learned more about ranked choice voting, and I realized New York City, as I said, was uniquely situated to take advantage of ranked choice voting because of these large fields of candidates that we have on a very regular basis. In 2009 in New York City, we had a citywide runoff for a relatively obscure citywide office called the Public Advocate, and it cost $11 million. And really that kicked off the discussion of, is there a better way to do this? And ranked choice voting began to be seriously discussed. With folks coming in from other places, national groups wanting to talk about ranked choice voting, I quickly realized that the only way in which this idea was going to be successful was if we in New York City took up the issue, built a broad campaign, and made it a New York City issue, not an issue that was being advanced by groups coming in from the national level with their own agendas about how to present and who should be involved. And so we at Common Cause began talking to colleagues and our various partners in different coalitions, partners who worked on campaign finance, but also partners who were concerned about housing and about immigrant rights, about the environment, our colleagues in labor, to talk about how do you deal with these large fields of candidates. And over time, we built a broad, very broad coalition that was interested in bringing ranked choice voting to New York City. So I'm going to stop there.
Awesome. Thank you. I think you touched a little bit more about what I was going to ask you next, which is why I wanted to meet with you when we met in New York City, which is, who was part of that coalition, right? I specifically was asking about labor groups, affinity groups. But more specifically, when you were running the campaign, I think it was in 2020, like the education campaign, who was part of that group that helped you, really get through to the voters and really educate them on what ranked choice voting was and how their ballot was going to look and how elections were going to look moving forward?
It was an incredibly broad coalition that stepped forward. The measure, the charter revision to bring ranked choice voting to New York City was on the ballot in 2019. And when we announced our campaign for yes on the proposal, we had a really, really broad set of groups standing with us. We had the three at that time leading mayoral contenders to say that they thought ranked choice voting was a good idea. We had the head of the leading business group in New York City, the Partnership for New York City, standing with us saying ranked choice voting was a good idea for New York City.
That's huge, by the way.
that was really a major accomplishment. I was really happy that she was willing to come. We had Better Business Bureau support, but we also had support from some labor unions and from indivisible groups, and everybody in between. So it was a very broad coalition, very economically and ethnically diverse, and very much rooted in New York City and the peculiarities of New York City's elections. So the ranked choice voting system that we proposed was rank 5 candidates out of the field as opposed to all, because frankly, I don't know how you decide to rank somebody 12th and somebody 13th. So we went with rank 5, and our system is limited to primary elections, which is where we see the really, really large fields, because we are pretty much a one-party town in New York City, practically speaking. And so the candidates, the diverse and active campaigns tend to be at the primary level, and mostly Democratic, although occasionally Republican for some council seats. But we limited it to the primary because we have an unusual fusion system in New York City. And we're one of the few states that has fusion voting, and we are the only state that handles fusion voting the way we do. Unlike, I think it's Washington or Oregon, I'm forgetting which one, really terrible for all that time on the West Coast, not differentiating between Washington and Oregon. I think it's Washington, has fusion voting, but the way fusion voting is handled in Oregon is that the candidates are listed, and any party that the candidate is running for or under is listed under the candidate. So if you're running as a conservative and a Republican, it's candidate name, Republican, conservative. In New York City, it's different. The parties are listed first. So if you are running as a Democrat and a Working Families Party nominee, you're going to be on the ballot twice. And frankly, we thought it was going to be hard enough. We had enough of a challenge to explain ranked choice voting when it was introduced. The idea of having to convince people not to rank the same candidate 2 or 3 times because they appeared 2 or 3 times on their ballot seemed like one thing too many. And so we decided to limit it to the primary.
Got it. And somebody just asked a question via chat. I usually don't take questions beforehand, but they did ask, what is fusion voting? Do you mind explaining that for them?
Sure. Fusion voting is the system where a candidate can be nominated by more than one party. And so and in New York, often the smaller party can be the balance. So for a very long time, the most influential small party in New York State was the Liberal Party. It sunsetted for whatever reason, And now the Working Families Party is the balance. And so the candidate will be endorsed by more than one party, and the votes are fused and counted towards the same candidate.
Awesome. Thank you so much for explaining that. And
Hey, I have a question too, if you don't mind.
oh, we can go ahead and answer your questions once we're done.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that was you, Thomas. Okay. If you want to ask it via chat, I'll make sure to ask.
All right.
Awesome. Thank
Okay.
you. So just to piggyback off of that, Susan, you know, what were some of the roadblocks that you experienced or challenges in running this campaign and building your coalition, one, but then more on a broader sense for the electoral reform, you know, what are some structural reform roadblocks that you're seeing on a national level? So first New York City and then more on a national level, just from your experience and your observations.
So I think this is the biggest challenge that we face everywhere, which is that ranked choice voting in whatever permutation fits your jurisdiction best challenges the political establishment because it gives voters more choice and it makes it much harder for any one political party to designate the winner. And party leaders are used to getting their way, and frankly, sometimes labor leaders as well. And they are not necessarily welcoming to a system that frankly diminishes their power and making it harder for them to pick the winner. And so what we've seen is that the entrenched power structure is not excited about seeing that designation power limited by ranked choice voting, seeing more power in the hands of the voter as opposed to the party or the party leader. And that's true whatever the ethnic background of that party establishment is. And so what that may do, and it has done that in New York City, is that it may create a generational divide in communities where younger activists really see the power of ranked choice voting and the way in which it empowers their community. And older activists, particularly ones that have attained some status within the political party, and in New York, that usually means Democrats, are hostile and not excited with the idea. They see this as, quite frankly, and rightly so, as I said, diminishing some of their power. And so we will see older, particularly party involved activists from different communities, and it's been a particular problem in the Black community, speaking out against ranked choice voting.
Wow. And with that in mind specifically, I've been on your website. I've seen that your team translated, I think maybe up to 12 or 13 languages, the material, because New York is extremely diverse. So my question to you is, what was the strategy behind, all this? Like, how did you reach out to these BIPOC communities? Did you just start on the ground first to try to get a lot of these advocacy groups on board? What was the thinking behind that?
Well, in all honesty, we're not newcomers to being in coalition with a large, diverse set of activists and neighborhood-based organizations. So we basically reached out through the various coalitions that we work with to organizations that we knew were particularly interested in building community-based power, and started to talk to them about ranked choice voting and how ranked choice voting helps communities which have been marginalized electorally or are on the cusp of gaining real power, help consolidate their power at the ballot box. Because one of the strengths of ranked choice voting is that you don't have to worry, communities don't have to worry about splitting their vote. So with a first past the post election, where the typical problem is, all right, if you have 3 ethnic Chinese candidates running, you're afraid that the ethnic Chinese vote is going to split between the 3, and a white candidate or candidate from another community will end up winning because your community has split its vote among several very good candidates. So you either see a political tussle where a community is trying to winnow down the field, discourage strong candidates from running because they need to consolidate around one. Ranked choice voting eliminates that problem. Ranked choice voting also helps communities gain more familiarity with candidates and candidates more familiar with the community's issues, because the candidate has to run a much more expansive campaign under ranked choice voting. We have a name for the candidate who only talks to his or her base, and we call them the loser. So if you're going to run a successful ranked choice voting campaign, you have to reach out to all of the communities in the district that you want to represent. That's a major shift from a first past the post traditional race. And it's very, very inviting to communities that are used to being ignored. And so when we laid out for them what the advantages were with ranked choice voting, and frankly, able to use some examples, particularly from Oakland, from California jurisdictions that have used ranked choice voting, that we were able to get community-based organizations and activists excited and wanting to join in on ranked choice voting, and also wanting to be sure that their voters were going to use the system. So that enabled us to work with our partners to be sure that the translations were colloquial and appropriate, and to give them the material that they needed to help their voters actually use ranked choice voting correctly. And our polling and the exit polling and the analysis that have been done of the ranked choice voting patterns in 2021 showed that all of the different communities used ranked choice voting in 2021 in our mayoral race, as well as in 2023, but we had fewer ranked choice elections that year. And that there was relatively little difference between the different communities. So reaching out, frankly, providing financial support, sub-granting to our partners, engaging them in helping to create the materials in their languages, and helping them stage events. We did a lot of street events. We did a lot of tabling. We were lucky enough to have the resources to have a significant number of field organizers, ethnically and linguistically diverse and appropriate for the communities that they were working in. And so we were really able to help people understand ranked choice voting and do the outreach that they needed. We also worked with some organizations that I think people too frequently overlook. We worked with Meals on Wheels. We had large print versions of explainers of ranked choice voting that went out with all of the meals that were delivered to homebound seniors and others. We trained the volunteers who went to the door to talk to the clients that they interacted with about ranked choice voting, to be sure that they knew about ranked choice voting and what it was, and that they would be able to use it in filling out their ballot. And we also did a lot of work with the food banks to be sure, again, that the food that was being distributed had explanatory information, and training volunteers of the food banks to talk to people who are online and urge them to vote and be sure that they understood ranked choice voting.
Totally. And I think another big one that you guys worked with was also Starbucks, right? I think everyone's always shocked when they hear that, but that was amazing that you guys were able to get that partnership and have them part of the coalition. I do have one last question for you, but I'm seeing the chat right now, and there's some really interesting questions on here that I'm going to ask of you because we only have, I think, maybe 6 more minutes left together. One of them on here, let me see, where did it go? I just lost it. Let's see. Where am I? What do you say to people who end up disliking a winner under RCV and blame the system?
There's no voting system that guarantees a specific candidate result.
That's right.
That person could very well have run under the traditional system. They would have won with probably not a majority, but a plurality. It's
Mhm.
not the voting system, it's the candidate and the voters.
Right, right. And I think that's something similar to what we say over here as well. There's another question here. In the 2019 campaign to pass a measure, did New York City's past experience with proportional RCV, community school board, city council in the 1930s, 40s come up?
Yes, it did. And that was a selling point with older Black voters, in particular, who remembered using a version of a ranked election for the school boards. And that was as late as the 60s in New York City. So we had people who were familiar with the system and who could say, yeah, I liked it back then. I think it's a good idea for now. So it did definitely come up.
Got it. And then what was it challenging? Here's another question. Was it challenging to get any of the coalition members to sign up? Were there any groups that didn't sign on that surprised you?
You know, we had such a broad coalition. I'm not there. I will say that labor support was lukewarm. So we did not get as many labor supporters as we had hoped, but we still got some of the big unions who supported ranked choice voting on the ballot, but who then have not used rankings for their endorsements. And that's my current challenge, is to get more of the endorsing unions to rank their endorsements.
Got it. One more question here for you. How has the conversation shifted regarding RCV since you began the work to now that you've used it, that voters have used it a few times? Do you still see voters enthusiastic about it and you know, ranking all of their ballots? What have you seen? What have you heard from people on the ground?
I think, you know, we just had a big discussion about ranked choice voting in a hastily convened half-baked charter revision commission. And the clear message that the Charter Revision Commission got was that ranked choice voting still has a lot of support in the city, and that we need to run several more citywide cycles for it to really be fully understood and fully used in the city. And that before we go through a couple more mayoral races, that it's premature to think about, do we need to revise it in some way or make some other changes? So the feeling is that it started really well and that we want to keep using it to be sure that it's working correctly. That's what we were hearing.
Got it. I know you said that there's majority support on the ground. Are there any staunch, you know, groups or opposition that, you know, keeps showing up and saying, you know, RCV is bad, we need to get rid of it, or maybe using the Alaska as an example, you know, there's a repeal effort over there, or Oakland or something like that. Does that come up at any point on your work in New York City?
It is as I think I said earlier, it's the older Black political establishment that really does not want RCV, but they've been outvoted by their communities, basically, but they just do not like it. They, as I said, see it as interfering with their ability to control the results.
Got it. Got it. And I have one last question here before we have you hop off. Somebody asked what unions have supported, if you're able to share with us.
So on the ballot, we had support from 1199, which is the big healthcare union. We had support from United Federation of Teachers. They were an active part of our coalition and actually gave us some financial support. And DC 37, which was the City Workers Union, also a strong supporter.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Susan, I think our time is up here. Are there any last minute thoughts that you want to share with us, or anything that you want to leave us with as we work towards, you know, ranked choice voting on a statewide level here and in several jurisdictions throughout the state of California?
Well, I want to agree with Tom. Absolutely a shout out to Sean Dugar, who is a phenomenal resource, an incredible
Yes.
organizer, and a good friend and very knowledgeable about RCV. And of course, you've got Pedro Hernandez at Common Cause California, who also is a wealth of information and knowledge about RCV and how it's played out in different places. So, you know, I think California has a lot going for it on RCV. And the main thing, you know, our experience shows over and over again, you know, dig into your roots, form your coalition, make sure that it is firmly grounded in what's important in your jurisdiction. And it takes some time, right? We started talking about RCV in 2010. We got it on the ballot and passed it in 2019.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming, for joining us. We are so grateful for your leadership in New York City and more broadly in the electoral reform space. Thank you for working on expanding RCV and continuing to fight the good fight. And again, thank you for your time to spend. I know it's a little late over there in New York. So thank you for staying up a little late. We're so appreciative of you. And again, I hope you'll visit us again. And I hope that you and I meet very soon.
Absolutely. And I do want to say that we have a lot of information about how RCV worked in the different ethnic communities in New York City. We're preparing a basic guide to the resources that are available from the New York City experience. I'll be sharing that with Marcela. And please don't hesitate to ask us for advice and to share our experience, because we're fans of RCV and we want to see it expand and help you succeed. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Susan. Appreciate you. Awesome. Wasn't she amazing, you guys? Yeah. All right, moving on here. We have a few campaign updates for you guys. I know that I've mentioned this before on our last two meetings that we have some campaigns going on. So I invited a few folks to come and speak on some of these campaigns. And our first speaker right now for our Santa Clara County update is David Newswanger. Dave, are you on here with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Well, I am the volunteer coordinator for Sunnyvale here in Santa Clara County. But we're going to talk mostly about the county today. About 26 years ago, voters approved the use of ranked choice voting in Santa Clara County, but the voting equipment that we have could not handle it. But now the equipment can. And so this year we're working to complete the process. A recent poll confirmed that about 2/3 of voters still support ranked choice voting here in the county. Our next step is that the proposal is going to the Finance and Government Operations Committee to answer any remaining policy and administrative questions. That's going to happen on Wednesday, September 18th at 10 in the morning. And then we expect it to go to the full board of supervisors for approval in the fall. Implementation probably 2028. So in preparation for the FGOC meeting and action by the board, we've been reaching out to our supporters to come to the FGOC meeting and also to write to their supervisor in support of ranked choice voting. To do this, we plan to use email lists that we get from canvassing, and we have a speakers bureau. So far, we have spoken to 17 groups, and 3 more are scheduled in the near future. And these include Democratic clubs, the League of Women Voters, unions, neighborhood organizations, church groups, etc. Somebody asked earlier about which unions. So let me just go down here and see if I can remember. Here it's IFPTE Local 21 and SEIU Local 521. We do have a long list of endorsements. We have 9 organizations, 3 newspapers, 3 elected officials who have endorsed, and then other supporters include the 2 unions, 5 additional organizations, and an additional elected official. In Sunnyvale in particular, our charter review committee begins this fall, and we do expect support from the city council, so we're enthusiastic about that. And I think I'm going to leave it there unless anybody has questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to throw them on the chat. Dave, if you can wait for us for a few minutes, see if anyone has any questions, we'll move on to our next speaker.
Sure.
Awesome. So for the city of Richmond, we have Alex Banash, and I hope I'm not butchering your last name, Alex. I'm so sorry.
No
Are
worries.
you on with us?
Yep. Hi, folks. How's everyone doing? Uh, so just a couple quick updates. For Richmond, today we submitted the ballot argument in favor of ranked choice voting, Measure L. Supporters that signed on to the ballot argument were Mayor Eduardo Martinez, SEIU 10-1, Fair Vote Action. Thank you, Marcela and James, for all of your help in getting folks signed on. And then also ACE Action, Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment. So that's our updates on ballot arguments. And then also coming up, we just want to let everybody know that we will be having volunteer opportunities coming up in early September, and then obviously through October and into Election Day. As far as endorsements, IFPTE and as well as SEIU 10-1 on the labor piece, as folks were just talking about, are signed on in support of the measure as well. And that's about the updates that I have for Richmond right now. Anything that I might be missing, Marcela, or if James is on, and also happy to answer any questions as well.
I think that we're going to be having a presentation with the League of Women Voters next week as well. I believe is on the calendar, I think, for August 28th. So we'll keep you all posted on that. But I think that's about it. Does anybody have any questions for Alex? Christine, when you say volunteer opportunities, do you mean phone banking? Yes, we mean phone banking and probably canvassing as well, right, Alex?
Yes, yep, yes. Sorry, I was reading some of the other questions. Yes, phone banking and door knocking as well. And Kate, yes, there will be remote volunteer opportunities as well. And Dave, yes, good question. So Measure L is for RCV. And then there is an opposition measure J on the ballot, which is to implement primary elections in Richmond. So we submitted obviously a ballot argument in favor of Measure L, and the coalition also submitted a ballot argument in opposition to Measure J.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. I think that's all for the questions. Again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time and all your hard work in this Richmond campaign.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Well, it looks like I'm next on here for Oakland. I realize that we haven't spoken in a few months, folks. So the good news here is that there is no repeal effort or ballot measure going to the ballot this year for an RCV repeal in Oakland. Yay. So the only thing that did make it on there that's not necessarily pertaining to us is that there is a mayor recall that qualified, and Mayor Shingtel will be going through a recall in the next few months. But aside from that, there is nothing else going on in Oakland in terms of RCV. We're working with our national partners, Fair Vote, to do some education for this upcoming November election, and making sure that folks know how to vote and how to use their ranked choice voting ballot. And just doing some community outreach similar to what Susan mentioned during her talk. So that's all for Oakland. In terms of Carlsbad, we have Reese Harris, our amazing volunteer here. Reese, are you here?
I'm here.
Awesome. Do you mind taking the floor and updating us on Carlsbad?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet everybody. Carlsbad is sort of in the beginning stages of developing a game plan right now for getting ranked choice voting on the ballot here in Carlsbad. We were originally hoping to get something on the ballot for this November, but it became clear that there was resistance from the city council that we were trying to work with. And there's an anti-ranked choice voting effort here in town that has sort of reared its ugly head. And so we did some soul searching. We did a lot of work this year. We started in November of last year. We did a lot of work, met with a lot of folks, including the city council and the mayor and the League of Women Voters and many others. But as I mentioned, we've decided to take a step back and really sharpen the axe and figure out, how we really need to move forward, who we need to build the coalitions with, how we need to, work with the volunteers effectively. And so there's other things that are in the works. Actually, I'll just say one last piece that I've been working with the Carlsbad City Council, and there's a legislative subcommittee meeting, and I will be out of town, but Marcela is going to be debating an anti-ranked choice voting individual, which is she's a Republican. She's the I believe she's the new chairperson of the Republican Party here in San Diego County. So this is kind of an interesting foray into this process. I'm not sure why there's so much resistance, but I can imagine why. So that's where we're at. We're hopefully going to get the ranked choice voting on the ballot for 2026. More to be revealed.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing with us, Reese. And now moving on to our next city update here, Redondo Beach. Tom, go ahead and take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. So Redondo Beach, excuse me. This is a story about protecting the win. So real quick recap, Redondo Beach voted to adopt ranked choice voting in March of last year. So a year and a half ago, give or take. The people of Redondo Beach voted for it 76%. And it had been put on the ballot by the city council. And after the win, we had been working with the city clerk there who runs elections in Redondo Beach, keeping in touch with her, making sure that we were there to support the implementation process. Something unpleasant ended up happening, which is that a few weeks ago, we became aware that some folks from a different reform organization that supports star voting, which is sort of a competitor to ranked choice voting, you might call it, had been in touch. And in fact, star had been considered by the city council early on and rejected. And they went with RCV, and that's what they put in front of voters. But then the star folks, they wanted to stay in the picture, I guess. And so they were quietly talking to city council members and sowing doubt and discord about ranked choice voting. And so we ended up having some city council meetings there where city council members were like, well, wait a minute, is this actually what we want? And that sort of thing. And so thankfully, we rallied together. We pulled in experts from around the state and around the country and have put that issue to bed. But the lesson learned in particular is after you have a win, even at the ballot box, you need to stay in touch with electeds, with community leaders, because particularly as electeds go in and out of office, right? You have a new city council after a prior city council might have approved something. And we found that even existing council members who voted for something previously will end up having second thoughts about it. So it's really important that wherever we are having wins, that we are staying in touch with council members, staying in touch with community leaders, making sure that the relationships are maintained and the communication lines remain open, because you do not want to let this really unfortunate thing happen where you have reformers or just other naysayers trying to come in and sow doubt about something and mess up its implementation to try to kill it. But luckily we've mostly gotten through all of that. There might be another speed bump or two, but we think that we're on the path of successful implementation in Redondo Beach for their next election in March 2025. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing with us, Tom. Appreciate it. And now am I handing this over? Oh, it's me again. So just real quick public service announcement. We are looking for a volunteer, specifically an email newsletter manager. We had an amazing volunteer helping us over the last few months with the newsletter, but unfortunately, he has to take a step back due to some personal reasons. So I'm currently looking for someone that can work with me 3 to 6 hours a month, that can help me put together the newsletter that has some of the skills that are listed on here, that has experience with email marketing systems. So if you think that you qualify or that you have the capacity to do something like this, please feel free to email me. My email is listed on there, marcela@calrcv.org. We would greatly appreciate your help with this. So Kate, we can go on to the next slide. All right, new tech rollout. I believe this is Warren and Arash.
Yeah, it should be Warren. It should be Warren. He should be jumping on momentarily. I believe he's already on, right?
I'm on. You guys can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Warren.
Cool. You're super welcome. Hey everyone, I'm Warren. I'm a volunteer from Los Angeles, and we've created a resource to support the hundreds of volunteers throughout California by making this table of contents. And the goal for this is to have a single source of truth that a volunteer can use to be successful. Kind of works like a shared bookmark of the most common items. And the main benefit is to just empower people to answer their own questions initially, and then also add their knowledge as they come up with best ideas and practices for volunteering with CalRCV. And so, for example, if you're looking for the links for everything CalRCV, all the social links, they're all right here, along with some templates that you could use to message people that you know about ranked choice voting. If someone's like, where can I get the logo? Because I'm trying to put together this thing, the logo and the colors, all of it's just sitting right here. These images are the full resolution. You can just click to download. You don't need to be logged in to access this. You can access it from any browser. Someone will share the link, or I'll share the link to this in the chat. And another example would be when we're done doing events, if you click this button, you can upload your photos. And then if you click this button, this is some of the event photos from past events, some of the highlights. And so if you're doing an in-person event or you want to do an in-person event, this is like some of the examples you could use for marketing. You could use this to get a sense of what we're doing and everything else. And then I'll show one more thing. This one's a little more advanced, but this is an example of how to use one of the tech platforms that we use to send emails. And it's actually built out so that you can walk through each and every step on like how to create an email on this software. So each step by step teaches you how to do it so that you can, so instead of everybody relearning the same software on their own, they can start here, go through this guide, and then have a better baseline on how to use a tool like Every Action, how to use a tool like Basecamp, Mobilize, et cetera, et cetera. And that's pretty much it. Like I mentioned, you don't have to be logged in to access this. Any item that's just a bullet and doesn't have a link or anything to it means that there's not a guide on there yet, but we'd like to get one there eventually, or it's somewhere and I'm not sure where it is and I didn't know how to link it. So that's pretty much it. Any questions or things on the table of contents?
And Warren, if anyone has any ideas too, they can send them over to you, right? I mean, you can add anything else on here if there's something that they're looking for specifically or that we're missing.
Yeah, totally. They can reach out to me. I'm Warren@calrcv.org, or they can email this. I put this at the very bottom. When you're logged in, you won't be able, when you open this on any browser, you can't edit anything, which is good. Like no one can delete something on accident, no one can edit anything. If people are interested in helping maintain this table of contents, we can give you Notion access and we can work on it together. Super happy to have more people doing that. But yeah, ideas would be great. I know there's things missing on here and would love to just keep building this out so we have like a single source of truth for everybody to work together on.
Awesome. Any questions for Warren? Is there a link for swag? Reese is asking.
Yeah, if you click here, it'll take you to our store and you can buy shirts, you can buy other swag, all that fun stuff. This link is, and this whole table of contents is a great thing to bookmark, because if you're curious about upcoming events and you don't want to go through the website, you can just click here. Kind of works in complementary to the website actually. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for putting this together, Warren. I know that several volunteers had been asking for something like this. So thank you for taking the time and putting this together. It's really helpful.
You're welcome. It's been a group effort. Like Isaac made the every action thing, Arash put parts in. This is a knowledge from years and years of people putting things together. So it's all here. Take it.
Thank you to everyone. Great. All right, handing it back over to Miss Kate.
I was on mute.
Hopefully.
Hello, hello. I'm trying to screen share too. Just a moment here.
I don't see a stop sharing button. But
I think I stopped your sharing. Can everybody see my upcoming events?
I don't believe so. I'm still looking at the table of contents.
Okay, so that didn't work. Just a moment. Let me do this. Stop sharing. Do you want?
Oh, here we go. How's that?
Okay. And I want to share this screen. And I want to back up right there. Okay, here we go. Just really quickly, some of the last few things that we need to talk about are upcoming events. We, between now and the next statewide meeting, when we all meet back here together again, we've got intro and get involved. So that was something that I started the meeting out with, a reminder that if you have more questions about what is ranked choice voting and exactly what are our CalRCV goals and mission, that's where you're going to want to go. And the next one is August 22. We have a new statewide volunteer meeting that we used to do these over a year ago. We had monthly meetings and we are bringing them back because we recognize that a lot of volunteers really want to do something, but they don't have an active campaign in their community, like those 5 communities that we heard about just a little bit ago. So the monthly statewide volunteer meetings will be a little bit of community and community building so that the people who are online and there can get to know each other and bolster each other. And then we will do a little bit of learn. So different topics about ranked choice voting that go a little bit more in depth than your typical intro might do, something like what's a charter city versus a general law city, things like that. And then we will have an activity, something that we can do online that it helps and impacts ranked choice voting somewhere, preferably in California. So we had Alex saying that in September and October, we know that Richmond is going to need some help. So that's the type of thing in our September and October meetings. We will probably be helping out in Richmond or in Santa Clara County with phone banking or text banking. But if we don't have something in California that's going on, we can also go a little bit broader, and I have contacts with other states. And if there's something that another place needs, we would be happy to help them out as well. So we'll keep that fresh. And then we want to help people who attend the monthly statewide volunteer meetings figure out how they can go back to their community and host something in person with similar, interesting, impactful activities, but on the ground in person. So our idea is to sort of grow crews on the ground, and we can do that by building up this volunteer meeting. So sign up for that. Our next statewide meeting is October 7th. And just after that, we're announcing it now because we want to make sure you all know and sign up. If you are near Pierce College, I think that is in the Los Angeles area, tabling at the Day of Politics at Pierce College. Am I right? Is that in Los Angeles? Did I say that right?
That's correct. That's something
Yay.
I put on there. Yeah. And also don't forget that on next Wednesday is the LA strategy call too. So
Perfect.
we can be talking about that. Yeah.
Christine runs every other week LA strategy calls. So also more localized for the LA basin. So very good. And all of this is at mobilize.us/CalRCV, or you can also go to our calrcv.org and find the events link, or you can go to our new table of contents and find it there. Perfect. that is it for upcoming events. Oh, sign up. And I'm going to hand it back to Marcela because she's got a few more words to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. Well, I'm doing a quick time check. We have 2 minutes left. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Just real quick, I want to thank you all again for being here with us tonight. I know, we have a lot of campaigns going on. And so we're going to need your volunteering, your time and support. But also, as always, we are an organization that is funding some of these campaigns, and we do need your help when it comes to some of these current campaigns that we're running, specifically in Richmond, because there's an opposing measure that wants to bring primaries. We are in need of money right now. So if you have any room in your pockets, if you can please donate to us, this will go directly to our Richmond campaign. There is a big corporation that is running that measure against us, and we have to ensure that we win this specific campaign for RCV, because any loss for RCV has lasting effects across the country for the RCV movement in general. So please, if you can donate, I would greatly appreciate that. We would greatly appreciate that. The movement greatly appreciates that. And additionally, this wasn't listed on the events page, but we are partnering up with the Forward Party and the Pro-Rep Coalition to do an electoral reform panel next Monday from 7:30 to 8:30. I will link the sign up on the chat right now. I will be personally participating on there along with the executive director of the Pro-Rep Coalition, Caledon Myers, and Miss Andrea St. Julian, who's actually from San Diego County and leads the Justice Workshop and is working on proportional ranked choice voting here in San Diego. So I would love for you guys to join us and listen in and hear our different viewpoints and how we're working together and partnering up to bring proportional representation and ranked choice voting to here in California. So that being said, I think I'm right on time at 7 p.m. Thank you again for joining us. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to send them on the chat. Let me send over this link for the Forward Party panel. I just sent it on the chat. Please feel free to join us. And again, please donate if you can. And if you can't donate, please look into volunteering in one of these campaigns. If it's not in your city, I understand, but just think at some point it will come to your city. We're working on your city. And if there's nothing going on, please reach out to us. We'll get something going and started in your area. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. By the way, there was a question about any updates about the Board of Supervisors meeting for Santa Clara County.
Yes, I believe Dave mentioned this.
There was
Yes, I don't know if Dave is still on here. If he's not, that's okay. Mickey, the ranked choice voting is going to be heard by the FGOC committee again in the next 2 to 3 weeks. They just want to iron out some specifics, and then it'll be referred again to the Board of Supervisors in October, sometime in October. So just keep in contact with us. We'll keep you guys posted. We'll probably update you guys on our next newsletter in September and in October. So if you can show up in person, that would be fantastic. If not, we'll need some people to call in during the meetings, but we'll keep you all apprised and let you know what's going on.
Thank you.
We have a question in the chat from Thomas. How much do you reach out to people who don't feel represented by either party? How do you find such people?
I think it's really just the outreach that we're doing on the ground when we're hosting either our own efforts and having folks from our own team reach out to their neighbors or folks that are not really politically involved, but also just any public events that we're doing, like street fairs is a huge one. I know Christine Harris and myself did the California Progressive Alliance conference a few weeks ago, and we got a bunch of signups from folks that have friends that feel that way and that they want to get involved. So it's really just being out there on the ground, recruiting folks and talking to folks and sharing more about ranked choice voting, because people who are not necessarily involved in politics are not aware of ranked choice voting. So we really just have to do the educational work on informing folks what RCV is and what it will do for them and their community. So hopefully that answers your question.
Can I put 2 cents in?
Yes.
Real quick? Thomas, yeah, so also, another way to reach out to the people who don't feel represented by the 2 blue or red parties is by actually going to those groups, like, you know, if there's a club that you're involved in, where people are constantly feeling really like they're not heard, what their voice isn't heard, that's a great opportunity to ask one of a speaker from CalRCV to come and present at that club. That's really a great opportunity. So if you have any connections like that, let us know so we can send somebody over and do something like that. Otherwise, exactly what Marcela said, we just got a table, we got a canvas, just get out there as much as possible.
And just to add on to that too, you know, myself and Amy Tobia, who's one of the leaders here in San Diego County for Represent Us, we're going to be presenting at Miracosta College in San Diego on Friday. They gave us an hour and a half, which is amazing because we're usually rushing to get through the presentations. So yeah, going to schools, even being invited to these schools and speaking to folks and informing them about what ranked choice voting is another great way to do it. But basically what Christine said, if you know of any groups that would be interested, we would love to present. And if we can't be there in person, we can probably find someone on the ground or we can be there by Zoom.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let me know if you have any connections, Thomas. Feel free to reach out. You have my email. I'm going to look forward to hearing back from you. Thanks, everyone.